Hello folks, here we are. Sunday. It's not Sunday at all, is it? It's Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining me. Hope it's lovely where you are as it is here, and I hope that you can hear me all right as well. So as promised, not that that looks very masculine, but I'm going to do a couple of cards. So if you've got half an hour or so just to spend with me whilst I do a couple of quick cards, it would be good. Just to show you how versatile that the embossing folders are, that I know many of you already got, but it will be nice to do some masculine type cards. So I'm actually going to do two cards. One perhaps is not quite so masculine as the other, but hey ho. But I've prepared a lot of it so that it's half done and half not, so that you can see just how lovely that they can go together. So let's pop this to one side. That's the layered Spellbinders layered daisies, which I really love. So I'm going to use some of them. And I'm going to use that with that card later, but not at the moment. Shall pop them to one side. Ooh. And we will do the first card first. So the first card is really super simple. So I have taken my Creative Expressions 3D embossing folder called Brick Wall, which is this, and I'm using an A5 blank card, and I've already cut a piece of antique copper for my background piece. So I kind of set myself a task here that I'm making the two cards today out of one sheet of A4 antique copper, and the other one is a sheet of white card as well. So that's what I've gone for. So I've taken my embossing folder, I've popped it in. The only thing I would say is try and make sure that you put it in straight so that you have got a straight line, because obviously your bricks will be a bit wonky otherwise. And I've trimmed that so that we've got a piece which is, the first piece here is 14.8, no, beg your pardon, 13.8 by 20 centimetres, and this piece is 12.8 by 19 centimetres, so that gives it a larger border. So with my piece here, you can see hopefully that we've got two sides, both of them very deeply embossed, which I think looks lovely, and clearly we could use both sides, but I'm going to use this side, which again I think is the proper side for this one, but I think it gives a lovely finish. And I'm going to just distress it a little bit, because unless you've got a whitewash wall, you're unlikely to have one quite so pristine white as that. So I'm going to take some distress ink, and I'm using the one that's antique linen. Now, I have to tell you this, because I thought to myself, antique linen distress ink with, there was another one called tea dye. Bring that one in as well. Those two. Very, very similar. And I have to say that these two colours were my first ever distress inks. These actual pads were my first ever distress inks. And that's got to be about 12, no, more than that, maybe even 15 years ago. I think it is 15 years ago, ever such a long time ago. And they're the same ones. And they're stored just sitting there like that. And I thought, well, that is the sign, isn't it, of a good ink, that you pick it up and you take the lid off and it's just the same as you left it the last time you used it, which I have to say was quite a long time ago. But yeah, probably about 15 years old, the actual thing is. Anyway, so I digress. I just thought that was quite incredible, really, because an awful lot of other inks would dry up in that time. So all I'm going to do is take this very, very pale one. So this one is antique linen, as I said. It's a distress ink, not an oxide. It looks like a very sort of browny colour. And I'm just going to wipe it or swipe it straight across my embossing folder. I'm pressing down quite hard. So it's not a gentle sort of emotion. Pressing down quite hard. And it's picking up some of the surfaces, some more than others, which is fine. But you can see now that I've sort of distressed it, if that's what the word is, distressed it with distress ink. The more times that I go over, the deeper and darker some of these will be, but I don't want to do it any darker than that, I don't think. But bear in mind, of course, that it will dry a bit lighter than it's actually going on there at the moment. It does take, even though it's warm, it does take a little while to dry. But you can possibly see also that here, when I've swiped it over, because I've just put decent pressure, but not very heavy, it's not picked up on all of the little raised bits, which is why I think it gives it a really nice finish. So that's my distress ink for that one. So I'm going to put this together as we go, because we like to have a really easy card for you. I'm just going to really crease that fold because it doesn't want to lay flat. Now it does. So I'm going to put my first layer on, which is my antique copper. So this is the, or is it the vintage copper? Could well be. That's better, thank you. It's just so warm in here. I was only using it a couple of minutes ago, so it can't have gone too bad, can it? So there, we put that on, and if we can, side folding card. My fold is on the side, not a top folder. If I did do a top folder, I'd have to bear in mind that my bricks would then be a completely different pattern. If I did it like that, I would have to have sort of vertical bricks, which obviously is possible, but bear that in mind with any of the patterns that you might have. Now, because you've got an awful lot of raised pieces here, we do need to make sure that the glue that we're putting on the back, gosh, how do you people that are in hot countries get on with glue? Do you have as much trouble as I do? Answers on a postcard, eh? As long as you've made the postcard yourself. So I'm just going on here, and as I said, these little bits here, I want to put a fair amount of glue because I do want it to pick up in as many places as I can, because with all those raised edges it is a little bit different. So I put the lid back on, or the pin even back on my ink. It's not an ink, is it? On my glue. So I'm just putting that in, and I'm giving it that sort of grab time, and then I'm going to turn it over because I do want to make sure that as far as possible we've got that staying stuck. Okay, so here we go. So we've got a nice image here. Now this one is going to be really, really simple. I've got myself a cottage. Now remember, in the May, I think it was, card kit, we had some cottages. These are a similar sort of one, but instead of being just an oval, which they were before, these are a sort of fancy oval, but with a raised piece. I know you probably can't see that. Can you see that? This bit here is sort of raised, so it's quite nice. I'm going to pop a little bit of foam on the back of it. Not going to do anything more to that. That I think is done, is enough. Whoops. So I'm just going to pop that onto the back. And then I've taken a couple of the Julie Hickey profile dies. So the Happy and the Birthday. And I have cut them out. Let's pop this one into place first. I've cut them out 3 times, just so that I've then got some decent depth to it. Might do, I'm thinking now. So I might do Happy. Yeah, I think that kind of looks quite good. So let's make sure we've got that into place. I was going to put it at the bottom, but I think it probably looks better like that. And so what I've done here is I've done 2 lots of gold card, because I just happen to have it, and 1 of the antique copper, but I've just slightly offset that. Not sure if you can see. Can you just see that? Just about that they're slightly offset here with the gold behind it, just so that it picks up this gold bit here. But I found that when I put gold behind it, it didn't quite look right. It was a bit washed out, so I put the darker colour of the antique copper behind. So this is a really simple manly type card, or maybe a retirement card with something like the cottage. I could happily live there. There's lots of cottages around that looking as lovely as that. Not mine, I don't live in a cottage. Although my flowers do look rather lovely. Staff is doing a grand job with the garden this year. And it is so lovely to see all of the flowers around, isn't it? Pop the birthday bit down on the bottom. Give it a chance because, again, you're putting it onto a very uneven surface here. And there you've got your happy birthday, ideal for a man or any other occasion, sort of thing like that. So happy birthday is for that one. So that's your first card. Okay, now we're going to step up things very slightly, but again, really, really simple. But this time I'm taking an A 5x7 card. I'm going to use it on the side fold there again, not a top fold. So I'm going to pop that there. And my other piece, you may recall that I said of my antique copper, I've actually put that through the brick wall embossing folder. Wow, isn't that a bit special? I really like that. I think that is very, very good. But having said all that, I want to make it slightly, not aged, but slightly different. So I'm taking some wax Lyrical. This is Pink Ink Designs, and it's called Wax Lyrical. So it's a water-based wax. You may recall, if you've been doing craft for a long time, that it used to come in a tiny little round, sort of like this shape type thing, but a tiny one. And it used to come in like that. And unfortunately, there were great problems of it drying out with the wax, and you clearly can't do much with it. And there were all sorts of different things that you could use. But nevertheless, that's, you know, wasn't the thing to do. So we've come out with these, which are ideal to put on with either a dauber or anything. I prefer to put it on with my finger. So we just put a little bit on like that. And it's a bit like grouting. I'm not going to put it on all over, but I'm just going to put it on in places. So I'm just literally rubbing it into the surface. And when we have another look at it, you'll see that it gives that sort of, we've already got a sheen going on because obviously we've got pearlized card, but I think that this just gives another little look. You can get this wax in all different colours, but I thought as we were going for the copper, I'm looking forward to using some of the more Christmassy colours, like the gold and the silver for the embossing folders at Christmas time, because they will look good with that as well. So when I then pick that up, you can then see that it's just in places that picks up the the shine, I should have said, which I think is looking good. It makes it just look a little bit different. So I better just wipe up this surface here a bit, else I'm going to have wax all over the place. So let me just clear off that a second. Sorry, I might get a little bit wobbly then. Don't need to make you look too, you know. So I'm going to bring that in and I'm going to now stick that straight down on there. So this was a 5x7 and I've gone for then 4.5 by 6.5, gone for 2 inches, just for the background. I'm sticking this straight down onto my card front. Not going to put any other mats and layers because the simplicity and the detail at the same time in that is just what you need. So just pop that into place and just hold that down for a second. Okay, it also looks fab. I think I did have a little bit of that. Let me just show you in gold. Maybe I didn't. I did have a little piece somewhere where I tried it on black, and that looks really fab as well. But, you know, in a safe place somewhere. So that's my background. So now I'm going to take my white piece of card and my flower die. As I said, this one's called Layered Daisies. I'm going to take my piece of cutting plate and I'm going to put on this one, which is our main die, and then I'm going to put on the sort of like bud, which is that one, and some stems and a leaf, and I'm going to tape those onto there and then run that through. Okay, now obviously you could use as many of the flowers as you like. I have already cut a couple out so that you can see them, but I just wanted to show you how I like to finish them off. So if I just take these off and leave what I've got in situ there, I'm going to take my flower off if I can. Take that away because I don't want to colour that. That little one here, this is the centre and it likes to disappear anyway, so I'm going to take that off. Not going to worry about those, and I'm just going to see if I can't remove that one, because rather than cut out all of these ones, I want to actually just add some ink whilst it's in place here. So I'm going to put a piece of paper underneath just in case it all disappears. She says, I'm not lifting these up. I didn't want the ink to go through. Never mind, never mind. So just going to grab myself some distress ink again, and this time it's going to be Bundled Sage because I want a very pale green. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to go over the stems and my leaf, which is here. Now, as I said, I have already cut some out because I would go for 2 or 3 leaves and 3 of the stems. You could go for your solid, cutting it out in green, of course. It's just that it does look rather pretty to not do that. It gives more of a sort of natural look because you're going in the different shading by just rubbing on the ink like that. Okay, so we'll just take those off. As I said, I did do some of those earlier. Just, whoops, oh, my well-used piece of card. Just carefully prise these off. And this one, and let's just put these little daisies together, and then the center of that one, so that was that little tiny piece there, just going to pick that up and turn it over straight on to my piece, my ink pad, and then just push it in and then pick it up, and that gives sort of like, it's a bit wet, obviously it will dry lighter, but it just gives a different effect rather than actually painting it in. So I quite like that. So let's make up the daisies. So you've got what looks a funny concoction here, really. You've got one big piece, and I'm just going to bend up the leaves there. I'm going to put a bit of glue into the center, and then I'm just going to take this second piece and just bend up those. And that goes in place just so that the background piece, that you can't see it. So I'm just popping it on there, make sure it grabs. And then I'm taking a little piece of glue in the center and I'm turning that round the right way and popping that into the center. Now you could, obviously you could do these, whoops, you can do the flowers in any colors, but I've just gone for very, very simple here at the moment. Okay, then when we've got our more of a bud, let's just tease these little bits up very slightly, just a little bit. So the bud, bit of glue at the bottom, then that piece, so that just fits in along the same edges down the bottom here, and then this little bit of green that we did earlier is just going to slot in down here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there and slot that into there. So that's your sort of little bud. If I bring that up to the camera, you'll be able to see that a bit better. Okay, so as I said, I did make some of these earlier because you didn't want to see me sitting and making loads of those, although clearly they don't take very long. Bring back our card. So I need to place my stems before I do anything, and obviously they don't all need to be the same length, because if we do that, we will have flowers all in one length. So I'm going to bring that down, perhaps something like that, so that you've got one up here. So we could put that daisy up there. We've then got another daisy which we could bring down here perhaps, and then this little one could be our little bud. Don't need that so long. Maybe something like that, which looks quite nice. Could of course put in on another daisy here. What do we think? 3 daisies or 2 daisies in a bud? What do you reckon, folks? Answers on a postcard, but hurry up. I shall wait until you reply to me, because I wouldn't want to do it if you didn't get it right. 2 daisies in a bud, 2 in a bud, 2 in a bed. Okay, 2 in a bud it is then. I'll take that one away then in that case. And then you've got your little bit of greenery here. So I'm thinking that they're going to go something like that. We'll give that a go. So let's put in our stems first. So I put a little bit of glue on there. And that one's going to be our center one. So we more or less put that in the center of our little posy. Now this one obviously could be male or female. As I said, I don't think it's a reason why a man doesn't really want any flowers in his life, is it? And it's fairly simple flowers. So not saying that men are simple. You know what I mean, don't you? And then this little bud we'll bring in. Let's just check. We want that one to go there, that one to go there, and that one about there. Bring it in a bit closer, I think. Yeah, down to about there. So let's put it. It's obviously with something like this, you do really want to, like you would flower arranging ordinarily, you do want to just arrange them a little bit before you actually go and put them on, so that you can be sure that they're in the right place that you want them to be. So my little leaves, I'm going to try and sort of cross over a bit here so that I'm covering a little bit of my stems down here. So just a little bit of glue here, and I'm just going to curl up the corners just so they look a little bit more realistic. Put that one in there. Again, I'm giving it a second or two to dry because you've got this uneven surface. I just love all these embossing folders. I know I seem to have been using them a lot just recently, but I think they're so versatile. And then let's poke that. No, not poke. Trim. Need to just trim that piece off of there because I want it to sit like that. Okay, And then we can put our glue. Now, one has to admit that I've run out. I know I've got it somewhere, but it's one of those safe places, the silicone glue. So unfortunately, my flowers are going to have to go on not with silicone glue today, but with ordinary glue. So it's not ideal. I'm sure that I bought 3 or 4 tubs of it, and I can only find the one that hasn't got any in anymore. But with a bit of oomph of the old petals on here, we can bring that up. And then this one as well. So just grabbing hold of the middle petals and just bringing that up there. That one goes in there. And then our little bud, because that's what you said, goes here. Okay. Oh, hold on, little bud, hold on. Don't need to hold that in place. And then I want a little sentiment. And so what I've done for the sentiment is this. I have taken hold on. Grabbing it here. I've taken one of my foilable from Julie Hickey sentiments. I just find this just so handy. So it's a foilable sentiment that's already stamped and cut out and whatever. So I've taken that with that nice background. But I want to make, I could put it just with the black, that's fine. But I want to make it so it's copper with the theme of everything else. So all I need for this is a laminator. So I'm going to pop that onto my ordinary piece of paper. It happened to be lined, but that's irrelevant, just an ordinary piece of printer paper. I pop my foilable sentiment down with the sentiment so that I can read it, because this is the sort of like toner ink and I can see it. I'm then going to put my piece of foil, just a small piece, just enough to cover whatever it is that I'm using. And I put that on so that the colour is showing. Okay, so the colour that I'm using is copper, but I wanted it to be able to see what that colour is, not the other way around, otherwise it won't work. So I then carefully take that over, hopefully it's not moved, and bring in my laminator, and then just simply feed my piece of paper through my laminator. So it's just an ordinary laminator, nothing special. It has got 2 heats on it. I've got it on the lowest heat, which I've always found has been okay. So hopefully it will be this time as well. To me, that little sentiment will just finish this piece off. I did try all sorts of other sentiments and I found that it just didn't work how I wanted it to. So I'm just going to use this instead. So that runs through. Laminator always takes a while, doesn't it? Delighted to say there's going to be some new foilable bits and pieces, shall we say. All very exciting. Turn that off. I'll just open this up so then you can see that something's gone on there. And you simply then just take the edge, hold on to your sentiment and just peel that away. And you've got that lovely, whoops, lovely happy birthday sentiment there, all in your gold foiling. Yeah, just giving a hint of the colour rather than all sort of in the colour there like that. Whoops, grab hold of it. Okay, so I'm then going to bring my card back. I think we need a bit of foam on there, don't we? So let's get a bit of foam, but I need to cut it in half. Otherwise it will be too long. Bring that back over there so you can see. So 2 very different cards, one perhaps more feminine, you could suggest, than the other, but nevertheless, both of them ideal for the man in your life, but really ideal for using this gorgeous background. And a little bit of glue on the back to make sure that it sticks. Should have decided where I'm going to put it, shouldn't I, really? But I didn't do that. I'm feeling that I want to put it there, but then I'm thinking it should be there. What do you think about that one then? Should it be there on the flower or there below the flower? What do we think with this one? Bottom right, over the stems at the bottom, on the flower. Oh, goodness me. Oh, vast majority saying on. On like here. I think I'm going to have to go with on. Oh, no. On in the middle like that. Executive decision. On in the middle like that. Hope that I've put it on straight now after all of that. But I think that both of those completely different cards, but both, apart from the obvious extra, oh, there's the camera, extra little bits, have been made from one sheet of antique copper and one sheet of white card, which I think is pretty good going, really. So I'll just recap of what we used on it. So we had the Creative Expressions 3D embossing folder called Brick Wall, which is the background for both of them. I have used on this one, I've used the Wax Lyrical in burnished copper for just putting a few little highlights on there. And I've used the Spellbinders Layered Daisies. Bring in the packet so you can see what I mean by that. That's those. And I've used the Julie Hickey sentiments, assorted sentiments, which I've put a bit of copper on for that. And the colour of the ink that I used there was Distress Ink Bundle Sage, which is hiding behind here. And on this one, I used Distress Ink Antique Linen to just colour a little bit of that card there. I've just used one of the toppers. I have got them available, actually. So I think what I will say is if anyone places any orders for this evening, you will get a free topper for any orders placed this evening from anything that we've used today. So I shall pop that in for you. The topper, let me just show you it. The topper, goodness me. Trying to be clever and not open the packet properly. That's your topper. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cottages, and then you've got 2 little sentiments, and you've got these little extra embellishments. So any orders placed tonight with the any of the items that I've used will include one of these for nothing, for absolutely freedom. And I have then used the Happy and the Birthday profile dies from Julie Hickey. I've only used the actual sentiment. They do have an outline border or profile, but I've actually only used that sentiment. I've cut it out in burnished gold for the background, but then antique copper for the front, and just slightly offset it so that it's got a little shadow and that shows up just a fraction more. So those are the 2 cards for today. As promised, I did put it on the Facebook page, but not everybody is over there. So just to remind you, I have actually now put online this die, which is the Festive Collection Stained Glass Candle, which is the next online workshop with myself, which is not until July the 15th. So you've got plenty of time, but it is now available under the workshop section of the MaximumCrafts.com website. We will be making 2 cards. One will be Christmas and one will not. So we couldn't decide whether it was too early for Christmas or not. So we decided to do one of each, and then everybody's happy, eh? So there you go. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have another rest of a lovely evening. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning if you can make it. But as always, if you can't, all of the designs and things that we use on the YouTube, they're all available forever as you go through, and you can catch up with any of them at any time if you can't make it. But I will be here at 11 o'clock on Sunday, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as we can then. So thank you very much till then. Take care, everybody. Bye.